Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. We'd like everyone to stand. We're going to recite the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing after the pledge for a moment of silence and respect for all of our veterans serving out here, home, and abroad, and those that have gone before us. Here we go, microphone. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Mr. Bob Bolus has a statement.
To all our veterans, if you would take a moment to stand, and we do a salute to our flag, to all our veterans, past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on this Memorial Day weekend. We would like to say thank you for your time. We'd like to thank the candidates for their time in appearing, because there's certainly a lot of things to do on such a holiday weekend. It's another great weekend to live in America, to be American. And this is the grassroots Pennsylvania 8th District Republican Congressional Town Hall. Unfortunately, we've had some late-breaking development and cancellation. Mr. Jim Bognett will not be represented today. He had called and said he's not able to attend or won't attend. I'm not sure. But on this Memorial Day, in honor of our fallen heroes, this Memorial Day, we remember those who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Our thoughts and prayers are with all of those who are grieving. May we, as Abraham Lincoln said at Gettysburg, highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain. That this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And that's kind of the thing that Joe Biden was talking about, what we know it here. Please, yes, so right now we'll have our thank yous, and I'd like to thank Betsy Green, President of the Northeast Pennsylvania Women and Men for Trump, for helping to put this together. Debbie Barbos, President of the Republican Women of Luzerne County. Bob Bolus, President of the Bob Bolus Towers and Truckers for Trump 2020, and who also kindly lent us his facility for the town hall. And Judy Depp Aarons, President of the Wayne County Council of Republican Women. I would also like to thank ECTV, and if you could please click on and subscribe to their site, that would help them monetize. Also, Mr. Jack Reinhardt is here from Fox 56. We're also providing a link to PCN, where this will be on Zoom. It's being broadcast live on Zoom, and it's also on our Facebook page, PA 8th District Republican Congressional Town Hall. Thank you to Joe Novakoski for doing the sound and the music, and also Jeff Henry, his assistant, no relation to Sue Henry. And now the rules of the road and our candidates' introduction. The format for this town hall is as follows. All candidates will have opening and closing remarks, 2 minutes opening and 1 minute closings. Candidate will be introduced and seated in alphabetical order. All candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. All candidates will receive 1 30-second rebuttal on each question. And should a candidate's name be called out during any other rebuttal, the candidate will have a 15-second additional rebuttal at the closing of the question. We hope we don't have to go that far, but if the passions run deep, then this is a town hall, this is a forum, it's more relaxed. We want you to compare and contrast these candidates, and we want to pick the best one to go through and have a great seat at offering superior representation to Pennsylvania's 8th Congressional District in comparison to Congressman Matt Cartwright and Nancy Pelosi. So, having said that, I will take my seat as your moderator today. Thank you all for coming, and we will start with the first candidate in alphabetical order, which is Mr. Mike Cammisa. Mike, your 2 minute introduction, sir. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you to our host for putting on today's event, and thank you to all of our viewers who are tuning in. My name is Mike Cammisa. I'm a proud native of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, and unlike some of my opponents, I was born, raised, and stayed here in the 8th Congressional District. I am unapologetically a lifelong conservative. I am pro-life, I am pro-gun, I am pro-God. I come from a working-class family, a family that owns and operates several small businesses. I got my start in politics by working for Congressman Lou Barletta in Washington, D.C., and from there, I went to work for the state of Texas while getting my graduate degree in National Security Studies and Public Policy from the Bush School of Government and Public Service at Texas A&M. Then I moved home. I got back involved in the family businesses. I took over the day-to-day operations of one of them, and I watched as Matt Cartwright represented New York and California. I watched as Matt Cartwright aligned himself with Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I watched as he supported the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, free education, and open borders. And I said, it's time we have a congressman who represents Northeastern Pennsylvania, someone who's going to stand with President Trump and someone who's going to put Northeastern Pennsylvania first. And that's why I'm running for Congress. Thank you.
Next up, Mr. Ted Daniels.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to put this on. Thank you for our viewers at home tuning in and watching this live. My name's Teddy Daniels. I'm a graduate of Valley Forge Military Academy. Was an All-American in high school, represented the state of Pennsylvania in the Big 33 Football Classic, and earned a full athletic scholarship to West Virginia University. From there, I was a police officer for 15 years. Then I enlisted active duty military. Was wounded in Afghanistan in 2012, was medically retired from the military, and I started and ran 2 businesses. And the reason I'm here is, you know, I got into politics when President Trump came down the escalator. And I looked at my wife and I said, this is my guy. Right here, this is my man. And I think for too many years, swamp politicians have gone to work for the special interests of only a select few people. I'm that guy that's going to go fight for the working families, the small businesses. The establishment has attacked me from day one. I'm the one guy who has not gone around to the local powers to be, for the exclusion of maybe Mike Marsicano, and gotten down on my hands and knees and kissed the butt and asked permission to run. And I'm the outside guy. We will finally have a representative that will stand up for the working folks and the men and women in this district and the small businesses. Thank you.
Mr. Harry Haas.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Harry Haas. I'm a candidate for the Pennsylvania 8th District and amongst a field of 6 other candidates. Thank you so much for all the folks who were able to put this together today. Thank you also to all the veterans who have served, past and present, who we're going to be honoring this weekend. And thank you to all the viewers at home or online who are going to be watching us. This race is so critical. And it's so critical because we need to return the House of Representatives back to a Republican majority, to send Nancy Pelosi packing, and to give President Trump the support he needs to get us moving forward again. I am running for a few reasons, but I just want to tell you first about why the Republican voters out there, I really think, are looking for 3 main criteria. Number 1, they want someone who shares their values. Number 2, they want someone who's actually going to follow through on those values. And number 3, they want someone that's going to be able to beat Matt Cartwright. I am the only candidate that can do all 3 of those things. And my background and my experience shows it. So right now I live in Kingston, Pennsylvania with my wife and 2 kids. It's a pleasure to be up here in Scranton today on this beautiful day. On a daily basis, I'm a public school teacher. I teach 7th grade ancient history to 13-year-old kids. I've been doing that for about 20 years now, and currently been in Dallas School District for about 15 of those years. On the local level with politics, I've involved with our own Republican Party as a committee person on the executive board, and most recently as a member of our 11-member county council in Luzerne County. And I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to cut the debt in half in almost 8 years. I want to see the same thing happen in Washington. I've stood up to strange contracts and agendas at the local level. I will do the same thing at the federal level, but I've always done it with decency and respect. And we need people that are going to be able to do things and articulate the values that we have and have them crafted into policy. I want to go to Congress because I want to help balance the budget. You saw what happened over the weekend. We saw the House Democrats pass another $3 trillion package with a lot of fat. I want to speak out against that. But I've been elected in a blue Luzerne County 3 times. In a Democrat county, I can win this Congress race against Matt Carey in the fall, and you'll hear more about me in just a little while. Thank you.
Mr. Mike Marsicano.
Thank you, Frank. I'd like to thank everybody for having us up here today. All of the people that represent Memorial Day, the veterans, who I believe are the marrow of this country. My story simply starts this way. I've been a lifelong conservative and a walkaway Democrat, and I've supported the Republican National Committee for 10 years. I have the card here. I want you to come up and see it since 2012. Financially. My story begins in Hazleton. Lifelong member there, enlisted in the National Guard, served 6 years. Came out of the National Guard as a staff sergeant onto the Pennsylvania State Police Academy. While I was a trooper, I was Lieutenant Governor Ernie Klein's, one of his bodyguards. I flew helicopters and on the Continental Airlines. I retired in 2005 as a 767 captain. During 9/11, I was flying. When our planes got taken down, I was one of the guys that volunteered because of my military background and what I did in the state police, and I was selected to go to Artesia, New Mexico. A secret installation by the Secret Service and the FBI. So I was vetted before I got there. And I was armed. I carried a weapon in the airplane because we didn't have enough federal agents. I did that until 2005, and I took an early retirement. I run a trucking business, so I'm a trucker for Donald Truck. Mine's right out there, that triaxle Peterbilt. Don't have a lot of work right now because of COVID-19. I was the mayor of the city of Hazleton for 4 years, and when I was very tough on crime and drug dealers. It was all about small taxes and helping the small business people in the community. That's what I did. That's my story. I'm a fighter. I'm a street fighter. Our country's gotten upside down. We finally have leadership in Washington, and you need somebody to buttress them, and I'm the guy. I have a record to run on. I'm telling you not what I'm going to do, but what I did. I love my country. And Bob, my hat's off to you for having this up here today, especially on Memorial Day weekend. So my fellow candidates here that showed up, the 2 guys that didn't, I guess they had something more important to do. Perhaps they should seek another position other than the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your opening remarks. So, gentlemen, if you're ready for the first question, we are going to go in alphabetical order, and we are going to go in rotation, which means that Mr. Cammisa will get the first question, and then Mr. Daniels will get the second, and Mr. Haas will get the third, and Mr. Marsicano will get the fourth, then we'll start again. So, with the federal government and the amount of money they waste, a question submitted online states, what would you do to specifically end the dreaded rain tax? So, Mr. Cammisa, that is the first question of this town hall.
It seems like almost every single day I'm on the campaign trail, I come across a constituent who wants to talk about the rain tax and their frustrations. It seems almost overnight the people of northeastern Pennsylvania were told that they were going to owe hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to the government to clean up the Chesapeake Bay. Well, there's 2 things I know. One is that is an unfunded mandate that dates back to the Obama administration. And 2, the majority of the pollution that is going into the Chesapeake Bay comes from New York. From 2018 on, they have dumped hundreds of millions of gallons of wastewater into the Susquehanna, flowing to the Chesapeake. I don't think it's Pennsylvania's job to have to pay to clean up New York's mess. So my first day in office, I'm going to introduce legislation that will rescind that mandate and give relief to the hardworking taxpayers of northeastern Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Mr. Daniels, same question. Would you like that repeated?
Nope, I got it, Frank. Thank you. I'll tell you what, this rain tax, as Mr. Cammisa said, was an Obama mandate, okay? And the money from this rain tax, apparently the Wyoming Valley Sanitation Authority is charging all these folks hundreds of thousands of dollars for this rain tax. Is the money going to clean up the Chesapeake? Where is the money going? Now, I know that a lot of the local municipalities have signed on to this, even though it's a federal mandate that's unfunded. But you know, this is hurting working folks. It's hurting a lot of families. And the first thing I would do when I get into Congress, now not a lot of people are aware of this, but because it's an authority, they do not have to post the numbers or show their finances. Who's profiting from this? Who's making money off of this? Where's the money going? Because I don't see new drains going in. There's a lot of things I don't see. So the one thing we have to do is get those books open. And if people are profiting from this, they're going to be held accountable. That's for sure. It's not right. It's unjust. And again, that's politics in Northeast PA. Somebody's always making money off of something. So that's what we need to take a look at. Thank you.
Mr. Haas?
Thanks, Frank. This issue illustrates very perfectly why I am the only candidate that's ready for this position. I've been fighting the rain tax here in Luzerne County since its inception, and we've taken proactive steps against it. First of all, the rain tax it resulted from an outside of the courtroom deal between the Chesapeake Bay Commission and the Obama administration. I really think it's two sides of the same coin. I think it was a gross overreach of the federal government. We're being forced to pay things here in Pennsylvania that have no bearing on the people of Pennsylvania. If the federal government is going to mandate something like that, then 100% of the federal government should go to pay for it. I have no problem cleaning up the Chesapeake Bay. I love the Bay. We've been on the Bay a million times. I have no problem cleaning up the Susquehanna River. I want to clean Susquehanna River. My question is, the devil is in the details, and where's the devil? Well, we see this at the federal level. So what can I do at the federal level to contend with this is, number one, float a bill to put the payment where it rightfully belongs, and that's in the federal government. I still think it's off. I think it's erroneous in how it's designed, but we don't have, I have only 2 minutes to deal with that. Nonetheless, here in the Luzerne County, we have actually held public forums to talk about the rain tax with our citizens. We've invited all elected officials, and we've extended the olive branch to have people come in and actually explain this to the people. It still doesn't make a lot of sense. Every person in the jurisdictions that have signed on to this fee structure pay at least $65. Some people are assessed at $2,000 or more per year to clean up a river that is really, there's a lot of causes for that, and it's grossly unfair. So at the federal level, I would like to see the same thing and shed a lot of light on it. When I had my introduction in this race back in October, I said this is my #1 issue. But it illustrates the problem of the federal overreach. In Wayne County, folks in Wayne County know you have the Delaware River Basin Commission, another gross overreach. I hope to talk about that later. It's a federal responsibility, not our local people's. Thank you.
Mr. Marsicano?
Well, I agree with all the candidates here, but the problem lies in Washington. We could all talk about solutions here, but until the people in Washington get changed out, we're going to have a problem. They got away with this for 2 reasons. Number one, you had Obama make a deal with someone, and we happen to be about 1,100 feet above sea level here in Lackawanna and Luzerne County. So they got away with it because all our discharge runs into that Chesapeake Bay Basin. And because of that, we're not at sea level. They get away with this. So it's a federal mandate. The state should have the ability to independently withdraw from it. But it's not going to happen until you get some of those 435 characters down in Washington changed out. Therein lies the problem. And I've said this while I've been campaigning. It's the voice of the people that change our country. The people that, like me or Teddy or Michael or Harry, that come here and ask you to support us, we need to do something. There's people up here in this room today that will. I really do. I truly do. And that's what we need in the 8th District. We need to go down to Washington and not accept what's going on here. And then my plan has always been, My plan has always been, I would love to take a busload of people down here from Wayne, from Pike, from Lackawanna, Luzerne, and Monroe County. Because these politicians only understand one thing. When they feel that their perpetual life is in jeopardy, we'll do something. So we need to change the environment, the discussion, and the decision-making process in Washington. We can talk all we want about how much it costs a square foot. It's not going to change, and the people that represent us in Washington change it. And that's where the people come in. You need to keep the pressure on these people. Cartwright has got to go, period, for many reasons, but that's one of them. We live in a beautiful country up here, and we need to do everything we can to protect it.
Thank you. And for those watching, this issue not only hits Pennsylvania and Northeast Pennsylvania, this goes through Illinois and Arizona. This is waters of the U.S. It's in every state. And this is where those EPA unfunded mandates, while they may look good at face value, are driving up the cost to own property. So that's the issue. If we're going to spend money, let's make sure we're getting something for our dollars. Thank you for question one. Very good answers. Question two, and this one will start with Mr. Ted Daniels. What is your stand on right to life?
I'm pro-life, 100%. I have 4 sons. My first son, I had a very, very young age. And that option was on the table, but not for me. You know, my little guy, my youngest, is going to be 3 years old the day after the primary election. And his name's Jack Daniels. And, you know, just this morning, he comes in, Daddy, let's wrestle. And the kid's going to be a beast, I'm telling you. But if you hold a baby boy, baby girl in your arms, I don't know how you could be anything else but pro-life. You know, Planned Parenthood gets federal funding. When I go to Congress, that stops. I'm going to push for it to stop. While the local swampers in the area were holding a big Northeast caucus this past winter, I was out protesting a Planned Parenthood rally where Matt Cartwright was speaking. That's where I was. So that should tell you how I feel about this. I'm a family man, and I love being a father. Once again, it bothers me that the same party that called our troops baby killers when they came back from Vietnam is the same party that has no problem actually killing babies. And it's wrong. Thank you.
Mr. Haas?
Thanks, Frank, and thanks, everybody. I'm 100% pro-life. If we've seen in recent days when we had the project, and it's skipping my mind right now, but they were talking to the CEO of Planned Parenthood, and the issue of harvesting baby parts came up, and she laughed about it. That was so offensive to so many common sense, decent people out there. I don't know where we go from there, Frank, to be honest with you. What an utter disaster. We also know that a lot of women, the statistics I show, they say they terminate their abortions before term, or they terminate their babies before term because 70% for economic reasons. So we're making it convenient. I just want to make sure that we understand, you know, I get families, especially single parents, are suffering out there, but 2 wrongs do not make a right. Ending the life of an unborn baby is a total travesty. You know, I'm a Christian man. I just wholeheartedly speak against that. Secondly, when we look at the feelings of across America, the vast majority of Americans know that it's wrong. In recent times, we've seen state governments now, you can terminate a pregnancy right up to the moment of birth, which if you are on trial and you're a pregnant woman and you die and your baby has died, the perpetrator is charged with double homicide. I mean, where are we going with this? This issue, I don't even know why this is an issue, Frank, to be honest with you, because it's just so common sense. It's so wrong. We really need to change the course of where we are in this country on this issue, because I think the average person that looks at the fact, you see an unborn baby inside a womb, it's undisputed. 100% pro-life. Thank you.
Mr. Marsicano?
I am pro-life, and I'll tell you why. I've always defended the sanctity of the unborn. When I was 18 years old, about 2 days after I graduated from Hazleton High School, I had a decision to make. 51 years later, I have the most beautiful Italian little daughter in the world. I was an altar boy for 8 years. Anthony J. Mayer, he was your Monsignor up here, I think. Some of you may know him. In fact, he used to buy your flowers from me from my greenhouse down there. I had a decision to make. Where were we going to have the reception? It was up at Desiderio's, a mountaintop. I can't for the life of me understand why there's any conversation about killing babies in this country. I'm not mad. I'm not getting yelled. I'm passionate. I'm an Italian guy, so that's why I talk. There's no rhyme or reason for it. None whatsoever. The sanctity of life is the inception of life. It's where it starts. And for mankind to change God's laws and people of Washington agreeing with it, there's something wrong with the people that are standing by. We need to put a stop to this. And those people are worried for two reasons. Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. You know, Ruth Bader Ginsburg isn't going to be around. That's what they're worried about. The sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned. So I have always defended and fought for the sanctity of life my entire life, and I will in Washington. Thank you.
Mr. Cammisa?
Thank you, Frank. I am 100% pro-life. I believe the role of government is to protect the most vulnerable and innocent, and there is no one more vulnerable than an unborn child. A personal story, I am pro-life because my mom chose pro-life. She was a single mother when she had me, and I would not be here today if she did not choose life. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, as you're speaking, we are getting some requests from the Facebook feeds if you could speak up a little bit. And on that last question, about pro-life, our own District Attorney General, Ernie Priate, argued Pennsylvania, he argued here Casey versus Planned Parenthood and basically wrote the statute. So Mr. Priate is to be thanked because there would be more abortions more freely, although the other governors of New York and Virginia are definitely out of control on that subject. So just thought I'd add that. Okay. Next question, which was submitted on Facebook, has to do with education funding. Now, in case you didn't know this, the federal government funds your local school district at about 5%. The other 95% come from the state and property taxes. So the question is, would you put federal education funding and tie it to a more conservative curriculum on the high school and college level?
Thanks, Frank. And again, great question. Being a school teacher for my entire career, I feel I can answer this question with some real certainty. So the federal government does pay a very small part of the overall education costs of the local taxpayers across America. However, it does mandate a lot of things that it doesn't necessarily pony up the funds for. In 1990, we had the IDEA Act, and that was the individuals' free and appropriate education law that was passed during the first Bush years. And special education, if you look at most school districts, costs about 25% of the budget. Frank, being a school director, probably remembers a lot of those figures. And if the federal government mandates a certain action or an agenda, it has a responsibility to pay for it. And we see this time and time again with the rain tax, with the Delaware River Basin Commission. The federal government is getting its nose into areas where it shouldn't be. And this is one of those areas that, again, I have a degree in special education. I think special needs kids do rightfully deserve the education they get, and it should be appropriate. The federal government needs to come up with some more funds for that because we've seen a disparity over the past 20 or so years. The state and the local school district taxing body are paying the disproportionate amount. Secondly, we also see come out of Washington this idea of standardized tests. As a practitioner of education, We see a lot of school districts have the pressure to do well on the tests at the expense of really educating kids to become good citizens, to become good managers of their own incomes, and to basically be participants in society. So we're focusing now on a lot of kids that can maybe take a test really well, but everything else that has made our country so good and so effective and powerful is going by the wayside. The federal government needs to get out of the testing business. They need to pony up and support our special needs kids a lot more than they are. Thank you.
Mr. Marsicano?
I wonder if you could repeat the question, because I wasn't sure whether you were talking about curriculum here or funding.
What we're asking, and what was asked, I believe, is that the curriculum should be tied to funding, so that if we do not have a conservative curriculum, then funding would be either decreased or reduced or eliminated. So that is the question. Would you tie federal education funding to a more conservative curriculum at both high school and college levels?
Well, right now, we don't really have a curriculum in most of our schools, from elementary through college, because of the liberal agenda that is being force-fed to our students. So it's twofold. We've gotten away from tradition. We've gotten away from America, the American dream. If you ask a child today about George Washington or John Adams from Braintree, Massachusetts, or Thomas Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, and Jackson are right on the line, or ask them about Omaha, Utah, Gold, Sword, Juneau, those 5 special beaches while we're talking about Memorial Day, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. So it's twofold. We need more money, and we need a better vetting process with the curriculum that's being taught in these schools. And while I'm on the subject of that, you know, I flew all over the world as an airline captain. The universal language in aviation is English. If a Chinese pilot from Beijing is landing in Moscow, he has to speak English. Okay? What happened to the English language in this country? How does someone, and it starts in schools, these children are indoctrinated with this stuff. And people like Cartwright, or the Democratic Party, I have to say it because these people are so far from, I'm 71 years old, I've never seen anything like what's going on in this country right now. The children are the future of this country. Yes, indeed, government needs to be involved. And I don't like government being involved. I was always a small government guy. But I think they're the only ones that could really help this. And if you're talking about money, we need more money. But the curriculum has to be changed. These are American children going to American schools to learn about America. Not Google it. I don't need to know it because I have a phone. That doesn't work for me. I didn't learn to fly an airplane that way with an iPhone. Thank you.
Mr. Cammisa, would you like the question repeated?
Yes, please.
Okay. So would you tie federal education funding to a more conservative curriculum on the high school and college level?
I've always believed, and I will continue to believe, in separation of powers and the power of a smaller government. It is not the role of the federal government, Washington, D.C., presidents like Obama or even President Trump to dictate at the local level what we should be teaching our children. That power belongs to we the people, school districts, communities, and parents to decide what the curriculum is going to be. Now, I'm a product of public education. I'm proud of that. I would not change that. I think, if anything, we need to increase funding for our public education system. We need to bring our public education system into the 21st century. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Daniels?
The Federal Department of Education needs to be disbanded. Needs to happen. I'm a 10th Amendment guy. I'm a states' rights guy. The federal government, first and foremost, has no right telling individual states, let alone school districts, what they can or cannot teach. And as far as funding, University of Scranton right here wanted to start a Turning Point USA chapter, and the administration stopped it. They can have all these liberal groups, but God forbid they want to start a conservative group on campus. I believe the federal government needs to defund every single liberal indoctrinated university that will not allow free speech, that will not allow opposing speakers. You guys have seen it all on the news. These conservative speakers go to these schools and they riot, and they tell them, you can't come here and speak. Well, guess what? You just lost your funding. You know, when I went to school, I went and listened to a woman by the name of Ramona Africa. And Ramona Africa was with that group MOVE, where Philly PD dropped a bomb in the early 80s on the whole block. And I wanted to listen to what she said. I didn't agree with what she said. It was my right to get up and walk out. You don't have to agree with opposing points, but I feel that you should at least have the option to listen to them if they come to your schools and universities. And if the schools and universities aren't going to allow it, they get no federal funding. That's just how it is. And I believe Trump's on the same page with that. Thank you.
I'm realizing how valuable this town hall and forum is. Because myself, I have not been able to speak to each candidate individually and to see their views and hear their views. So I can just tell you this. I have to thank the two ladies that put this together and are providing this for the public, because it would not have happened. And I think this is extremely valuable. To have an election without a debate in Northeast Pennsylvania would have been a catastrophe. And I thank everyone involved and these candidates at this point, midpoint, because, gentlemen, this is absolute, ladies and gentlemen, this is absolutely great. So, our next question. China. China has seen the quality of life improve about 32 times since 1980, while the U.S. quality of life has improved about 3 times. So, from Facebook, it says, are you sincere in dissolving all trade relations with China despite what lobbyists, globalists, and Democrats have to say? Mr. Haas? Oh, no, I think we're going to Mr. Marsicano. Mr. Marsicano is next.
You know, we talk about Memorial Day. This country has always been a powerhouse, an economic, manufacturing powerhouse. Every manufacturing facility in China, and if you land in Beijing over there, the first thing you see when you get out of the airplane is cement buildings. Stanley, American, Stanley toilets are made there, tools are made there, everything. I believe all the manufacturing needs to come back to the United States. It does 2 things. Number 1, it returns our country to profitability. It provides life-sustaining jobs, family jobs to all the people in the country. That's what manufacturing does. The dividend of that is it will reduce China's footprint in the world. We have 10 nuclear carriers right now in our arsenal, part of the triad, with the air, the land, and the sea. They have 1. The second one's under construction right now in the South China Sea. So they're out to trim this country, for lack of a better word, economically and militarily. They're a communist coup in action. They have a problem right now in Beijing. They have a problem over there with the D word, democracy. They don't know what to do. They're throttling those people over there every day because there's an uprising. There's an uprising over there. I believe the people, what's going on in Beijing right now, in Hong Kong, will decimate that country in the next 5 or 10 years. In the meantime, the lobbyists who benefit, when I had a greenhouse business, I had to deal with NAFTA back in 1980. You know, so I know a little bit about foreign people and the advantage they have over us. All American manufacturing needs to come back here, every bit of it. Because when I was growing up, if it was made in China, you didn't buy it.
Mr. Cammisa?
Frank, can you repeat the question again, please, as well?
Are you sincere in dissolving all trade relations with China despite lobbyists, globalists, and Democrats?
I have said from day one of this campaign, long before COVID-19 became an issue or before my opponents got on the bandwagon to say that we need to hold China accountable, that we do need to hold China accountable. They are a currency manipulator. They systemically engage in the theft of our intellectual property, our military technology, and they are a competitor to us. Unfortunately, we do not have the capability to return all 100% of manufacturing back to the United States. I try every day to not buy from China, but somehow I find myself going to Walmart. Millions of Americans do every day. It's just not feasible. But what we can do is to start taking measures to hold China accountable and to hurt them. We could divert manufacturing from China to their peer competitors in India. We could invest more military resources to the South China Sea. We could invest in our allies, Taiwan, an enemy of China. But no, we cannot return 100% of manufacturing to the United States. The American people would not do that. Many Americans don't have the financial means to pay 3 or 4 times what they do for clothing. But yes, we should do everything we can to hold China accountable and to become more independent of them. Thank you.
Mr. Daniels, would you like the question repeated?
Nope, I got it, Frank. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We can't completely dissolve trade relations with China. What we need to do, and President Trump's been working on this, is work trade deals to where it's advantageous for us, to where we make money on the trade with China. You know what? In a perfect utopian world, can we stop all trade with China? Absolutely. It's not the world we live in, okay? We live in a realistic world to where there's still going to be trade there. But we need to work trade deals. And I remember close to a year ago, Trump was hammering this big trade deal with China, and we came out on top. We need to keep coming out on top. And that's what I'm going to make sure we're going to do. Now, my big question is, Frank, I'm glad you brought up China. Because if I hear the freaking slogan one more time, make China pay, I'm going to lose it. Okay? You can't just put a slogan out there and then not come here and defend your position. Oh, let's see, what's going to sound good? Make China pay. Yeah, I'm going to write that down. I'm going to put that on mailers. I'm going to run TV commercials. We're going to make China pay. Frank, we need to put the American people back to work first. That's what we need to do. We need to get our economy going again. Then you know what? Right now, this country's been through a 12-round fight with this virus. People are talking about taking military action against China. We're not ready for that. Make China pay. Tell me how you're going to make China pay. Is he here? Jim? Not here. I'd love to know. Would you like to know? How about you, Mike? Mike, you want to know? How do we make China pay? That's all I'm hearing. It's all that's been shoved down our throats for the last 2 months since he unpacked his car from Virginia. That's all I got.
If Mr. Bognet were in attendance, he'd have a 30-second rebuttal due, but
He would, but he ain't here.
he's not here. So, and Mr. Granville. So, our next question goes to Mr. Haas.
Yeah, I got to agree with a lot of what Teddy said. You know, the last debate, one candidate just said cancel all the debts that we owe to China. Another candidate said make China pay, and up to the brink of war. And they're both just totally 100% wrong approaches. You know, if we went back in time about 150 years ago, Western countries were clamoring to trade with China. And we had to fight some wars over there called the Opium Wars. This again illustrates I'm the best candidate for this job, ladies and gentlemen. I know the geopolitics. I know the ancient history of China. I've been to China before. And when Joe Biden said, they're good folks, I really think he was talking about the Chinese people. The Chinese people are good, industrious, respectful people. The government is straight up terrible. All right, it's a communist regime. But they are competitors. And what are Americans so good at? That's competition. I welcome the competition. I welcome the Chinese and what they're doing with the global economy. No, to answer the question, Frank, no, we should definitely not dissolve trade with China, but we definitely need to negotiate some better trade deals. And I think President Trump has hit this out of the park. He's hit a grand slam with renegotiating our trade talks with China. He did so much to the anger of the liberal left, who has been coddling China for decades, going back to Bill Clinton with the most favored trade status with China, Barack Obama cozying up to Chinese premiers, and I said the last debate, he has a Mao Zedong ornament on the White House Christmas tree. I mean, these people are communist sympathizers. That's what the left does. They have destroyed American manufacturing by shipping our jobs overseas and making it difficult for American businesses to do business. So, I mean, the other half of the argument is really, let's stop with these all unnecessary regulations that are driving American businesses overseas and trying to get Chinese labor to do things that Americans have done since the beginning. So it's a really common sense, very level-headed approach. We need to get Donald Trump back to the White House. We need a House majority of Republicans to back him on this. I'm cut out for the job, and I will be one seat against Nancy Pelosi. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Following, in that same vein, we have a COVID question. And this can be state, federal, local, because we are in it together. And it says, are you going to stand behind the people that decide enough is enough and exercise their constitutional rights? And we open up with Mr. Cammisa for that first question.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time that we open our economy, but do it safely and responsibly. I'm a firm believer that small businesses aren't just the heart of America, but they are resourceful, they're innovative, and they could find ways to reopen their hair salons, or their jewelry store, or their car dealership, and do so in a manner that protects them and their family and their customers. They could do it much better than the big box stores like Walmart and Target. And that's step one. Step two, we need a massive infrastructure program, a program that will benefit northeastern Pennsylvania, one that will create family-sustaining, good-paying jobs while improving quality of life here. We've got the second highest gas tax in the nation and the fifth worst roads. It's time we have an infrastructure program, and it's time we have it now. Step three, specific to northeastern Pennsylvania, we need to invest in drilling and expanding our natural gas resources. We've got almost as much natural gas as Texas. It is abundant. It is cheap. We will lower energy costs here in northeastern Pennsylvania. It is clean. It has half the carbon emissions as coal. We'll make the Democrats happy. And most importantly, we will create tax revenue and jobs. 2 years ago, Massachusetts was importing natural gas from Russia. I say it's time northeastern Pennsylvania becomes a net exporter of natural gas, and we utilize our resources to create revenue and to create family-sustaining jobs. Thank you.
Mr. Daniels, would you like the question repeated?
Yeah, do we stand with the working folks who've been affected by the COVID virus? That's pretty much essentially.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I think everybody knows what my stance is. I'm the only candidate over a month ago that was in Harrisburg protesting the governor and standing up for families and small businesses. I refuse to wear a mask. Bob, you know that. I love you, brother, but okay. I refuse to wear a mask. I spoke at the Pike County open rally. There were 3 of us here at the Wayne County rally the other day. There's been restaurants that's opened. I've gone, don't worry, Bob, I haven't been to China, you're good. There's been restaurants that have opened that I tell them, if you open, I'll come be your first customer. You can tell there's been a lot that's opened, okay? The government has no right to do what they're doing. They have no right to determine who's essential and not essential. Everybody's essential. This is America. This isn't China. This isn't anywhere else. The government's responsibility in this, inform us of a virus, tell us how to be safe if we choose. We have the freedom in this country to do as we please. There's 2 stances on this, Team Fear and Team Freedom. You won't find posts on my page, the Make China Pay guy telling people how to wash their hands, and now changing his tune saying we need to reopen Pennsylvania. Well, where were you standing by the people when the people needed you to stand by them? Nowhere to be found. Open PA and do it now. Thank you.
Mr. Haas?
Could you repeat the question, Frank, again?
Question is, are you going to stand behind the people that decide enough is enough and exercise their constitutional rights.
Very good. Yes. Well, I've been standing up with the people pretty much since this began. When the governor closed down the state way back in March, I believe it was March 15th, I said this should be extremely short-lived because it could cause a recession, maybe a depression. And here we are almost 3 months into it. We've seen businesses go bankrupt. We've seen our working people and even working poor that are already living paycheck to paycheck. Now they can't pay rent. They've got a debt racked up to their landlord or their banking institution, 3 months of back rent or mortgage. How do we climb out of that? Because if you're making a wage, you were just barely making it then, you're going to need 3 extra months of life that we just don't have right now. The fact that we have now moved into the yellow with most of the 8th District, like we're still presently in Lackawanna County, technically still red, it's totally egregious to me. What has happened with this COVID is that these liberal governors, Governor Wolf has been a great example of this, they've really set out arbitrary goals, and then they've changed those weeks down the road to suit different agendas. The agenda, to me, it's not based on science in many cases. I'm all about, being common sense. I'm all about keeping social distance, and if it makes people feel comfortable, I'll wear the mask if it makes them comfortable. But at the same time, when it comes down to closing our businesses for arbitrary reasons, it's inexcusable. The government is supposed to protect life, liberty, and property, or as Tom Jefferson said, the pursuit of happiness. Well, really, our governor has taken all of those away from all of us that are working. If you work for a business that's been shut down, now you don't have your income. If you had a business, now your business might close doors permanently. So of course I stand with the working people. I was in Wayne County yesterday as well as at the Open, but at the Open rally. But instead of going to some of these other rallies, I've been here in Luzerne County working to help our committees. I serve on a committee with it's the at-risk population, and we're seeing now people that dealing with more with mental health issues, dealing now with food insecurity, that are being caused because of this shutdown, and it's getting worse. We really need to open doors as soon as we can. Thank you.
Mr. Marsicano, would you like the question repeated?
You have a hard time convincing people in this country that anybody could go to a grocery store or to Walmart. But I can't go to a quarry and get a load of stone in that truck. Or a mechanic can't open his garage. Or my wife can't open her beauty shop. That's the rub here. I don't like the position that Wolf has taken. I don't like a lot of things about him. But to stand there and threaten people in this country, I was at Wayne County, some of us show up. Some of us show up. I'll answer the question. I want to get back to something here. But you cannot mandate people to destroy themselves, to ruin their livelihoods. That's what's going on in this country right now. If it continues, there'll be no America. We can't print enough money to solve this problem. And the solution is much worse than the problem. Americans have always lived with risk. We live with it every day. We're pretty good at it. We have the best scientists, and under Donald Trump, and he's done a marvelous job. I got to tell you, he stood up, he's doing the best he can, and he's doing a hell of a job. We are free people. We need to remain that way. There are 4 people here. These are your candidates in the 8th Congressional District. 2 guys didn't show up. Bognet and the other guy. I don't know him that well, Granville. They don't show up. These are your candidates for the 8th Congressional District, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for putting this on tonight. It was the only one. You don't show up. Don't go and knock on my door for a vote. Bognet and Granville chose to go someplace else. These are the candidates right here. Cammisa, Daniels, Haas, and Marsicano. I want to be, listen, this is a serious thing. It needs to be addressed seriously, period.
I guess if you were mentioned...
Are there any objections?
No. I don't have to.
Go ahead.
So if your name was mentioned, you're entitled to a rebuttal.
Say my name.
Well, you did. You did.
Said all our names. Here you go.
Yeah.
So, okay, yep. So you're entitled.
I'll tell you why the
But
anointed
Mike
one-
doesn't get the rebuttal. Oh, you're
Okay.
giving him your rebuttal.
Give my rebuttal time.
Yeah.
Well, isn't that kind of you?
30 seconds, Frank.
Go ahead.
the clock starting. I'll tell you why it's serious. This is serious business. Cartwright's got to go. I was a Democrat. I'm a conservative guy. I changed to Republican. I've been funding the Democratic Party out of my pocket. I showed you my card for almost 10 years. I'm going to bring a dump truck full of Democrats with me. That's what Cartwright's worried about. In the meantime, Bognett, who doesn't live in Hazleton, listen, I was the mayor down there. I know everybody lives there. He lives in his father's plumbing garage office. I go over there every day to get milk for my wife, period. You know, I've had it. This country, here's your candidates for the 8th Congressional District.
30 seconds goes quick. Let's. Well, but let's go
Harry
in line
Haas.
because Mike Cammisa wants this. So, Mike, I'll invite you back up for Harry's. But, Mr. Cammisa, it is your turn, going fairly and in order of request. So, your show.
This is disappointing. Right now, more than ever, we don't need politicians who are going to stand here and grandstand and politicize and talk poorly about our leaders. We need leaders who are going to step up and be forward-thinking. And as much as I think we need to reopen the country, because we do, I have yet to hear a single plan mentioned by any of my opponents about what they will do to help our economy, to help the small business owners. I'm one of them. I go to sleep every night wondering whether or not my family's business is going to be able to reopen after this. So I challenge my opponents, what are you going to do to help our community?
Okay, so Mr. Haas, your rebuttal is given to Mr. Mike Marsicano. Mike, 30 seconds.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Give him hell.
We in the 8th Congressional District need to protect the 8th Congressional District. We need somebody that'll go to Washington and show up. I truly believe that. I'm doing this with the passion because I love my country. I got to know Harry. I didn't know him before, and Teddy Daniels. I don't know Michael. But again, and I don't want to speak for everybody, but I came here today prepared to debate Jimmy Bognett. I put an article in the paper about him not living here. He didn't vote for Donald Trump. In fact, he didn't vote at all in 2016.
Thank you. And that ends that question, but I will just put in as an aside, my wife too is a beautician and she is not working and it's killing us. And also the fact about standing up for your constitutional rights. I find it amazing that Rachel Levine did take her mother out of the nursing home at 95 or some years, and I just find it hard to buy that, the way government singles out some people for being saved and the rest of us go down with the ship. So next question goes to Mr. Daniels, and it says, if elected, would you vote for term limits and also vote no pensions or medical coverage better than your constituency?
Frank, I am the only candidate that signed the term limits pledge. I'm a term limits guy. I'm retired. I've got an amazing family at home. I've got a beautiful wife. I've got a little kid that I think he might be a pro wrestler when he grows up, okay? I'm not looking to go to Washington for years and years and years and years and years. The Founding Fathers never intended it to be that way. If there's term limits on the president, why isn't there term limits on Congress and the Senate? I'm looking at 3 two-year terms. I have no desire to go run for Senate. None. 3 two-year terms, and then you come home and you live under the legislation that you helped push and pass. As far as the medical, Frank, I'm 100% disabled through the VA. That won't change. I get VA coverage, okay? And, the one thing that bothers me, and I got to bring this up, since John McCain fought President Trump on the VA choice. He said, anything that a veteran needs, he can get it at the VA hospital. They don't need to go outside the system. Now, when John McCain found out he had cancer, he didn't go to the VA. Okay? I get all my treatment at the VA. I get my health care at the VA. I don't have a fancy, expensive health policy. That's where I go. And it's going to lead into this, too. For all the liberals out there that want socialized medicine, go walk through a VA hospital, because that's what you'll end up getting. They do the best they can with what they got, but that's only for a small percentage of the population. Imagine if everybody had to use it. Thank you.
Mr. Haas, if elected, would you vote for term limits and also vote no pensions or medical benefits better than your constituents?
Okay, so 3 questions in one. Yes, I will vote for term limits. I think 10 or 12 years would be more than enough time for a member of the House of Representatives. In Luzerne County, when we had our new home rule charter pass 10 years ago, they instituted term limits, 3 terms of 4 years apiece. But again, when Ben Franklin said it best, when you tie a position of honor with big benefits and remuneration, you're going to have corruption, and that's what we have. We have a federal legislature that is, it's not taking care of the people, and it's about time it really does. If this job were more of a part-time job, a very short stint like the Founding Fathers envisioned, have a rotating door, so every 2 years, that's why the term is so short, because they want it to see being refreshed often. This was never meant to be a career path like Mr. Biden, who's been there almost 50 years and he wants to stay there again. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to me how anybody could spend a career. I'm not looking for a second career. I'm a very lucky guy. I love what I do. I don't have a bad day at school. Ask anybody that I work with. I like what I do. I'm a lucky guy. The third one, forgive me, pensions.
Medical coverage better than your constituents.
So right now, the Congress said, we're going to take the Obamacare. We think that is appropriate because we put that on the rest of the people. So as a member of Congress, you have to take the Obamacare. That's what you have to be on, which we all know is terrible. All right, so I think that was appropriate. We got to understand there's so many fat cats in Washington. Most of them don't need the health care. They have their own fancy Cadillac health care. I'll be on the Obamacare, okay, if I'm elected. So thank you.
Mr. Marsicano.
Well, I'm on the record on this subject. I'm against all of it. There needs to be term limits, no pension, and no health care. It takes a couple bucks to do this. Okay? Those people down there in Washington come out of this as a millionaire. They will do whatever's necessary to perpetuate their political existence, and that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So I'm against somebody. In fact, I never remember a discipline in school that said, like, politician. You go to school to be a politician and you're there for 20 years. So I, as a taxpayer, don't want to pay these guys anymore. You know, we need term limits, and it's got to be on a stand-up, alone bill by a rank-and-file vote. And I talked about this earlier. The people, the power has always been with the people. Somehow we've gotten away from that. Not the governor, not the president, certainly not the legislative branch of government. It's about the people. Somehow, some way, I don't have a canned answer for that, but I share the beliefs of my fellow candidates up here. It's got to stop. We see it every day. The deals that are being, look what Joe Biden did with his son. And I want to talk about somebody that's been mentally or challenged in some way. This guy, no background in international law, became a millionaire because his daddy was the vice president. We know that stuff. We see it on television, and yet nobody's accountable. Michael Flynn. These people in Washington need to be removed. We need someone from this room for the 8th Congressional District to replace Matt Cartwright, because whoever it is, I will support. The other debate, they asked me, and I said no comment because I didn't care for the other 2 candidates. Whoever wins up here on Tuesday, Mike Marsicano's with them. I hope it's me. We got to bring this country together, bring this district back together, and get some representation.
Mr. Cammisa, if elected, would you vote for term limits and also vote no pensions or medical coverage better than your constituents?
Yes to all 3. I got in this race because I believe that we need to bring power back to the people, back to our community. That means we need term limits. It's the only way to get politicians who are going to stop worrying about re-election and stop worrying about fundraising and worrying about what is best for their community. Mr. Daniels was incorrect. I have signed on to the term limit pledge with him. And I would encourage the rest of my opponents to do so as well. As far as the pension, we don't deserve a pension. We should be in Congress for a few years, doing our job, and going back to the private sector or doing whatever we want to do with our careers. And as far as medical, there's no reason we deserve better medical care than the people in our community. So I would refuse that as well. Thank you.
Well, that was just an update. It looks like everyone has signed the term limits pledge then.
Hey, guys, I apologize. I didn't know, so.
Good, and that spares us a rebuttal. Very good. So that question also went to Mr. Bognet and Mr. Granville, who are not here to answer that. Our next and final question is going to be, any preference?
This will be a good one.
So Betsy's going to pick the next and final. And as a programming note, since the sound wasn't quite 100% in the beginning, we're going to give you guys 2 minutes closing. Instead of a 1 minute closing argument, we'll be giving you 2 minutes to continue to speak on yourself and your candidacy. So Betsy has picked. What would be your plan to recover from the economy and the pandemic? So, Mr. Haas, that question goes to you. What would be your plan to recover the economy from the pandemic?
Absolutely. Well, at the county level, we're already starting the recovery. We've put in, we have committees to get together to put in place, step that businesses can again, proceed with caution to open back up, but do so very expeditiously, very quickly. And I think the local governments have a big stake in that because, look, we're a big state, Pennsylvania, and we're in the 8th District. Our district's very different than, say, a district down in Philadelphia. So I think the best step to recovery is to open up as soon as possible, again, with caution, because some people are totally scared out there, and they're scared, I think, for a lot of reasons. I don't think it's totally preposterous to think the virus is still out there, but the media and the liberals have terrified people to the point where people just are not going to come out even when they say it's safe. And that's just the state of affairs we're in today. So the steps would be to also demonstrate to the people who are scared to say, look, we can recover, we can go back to life as normal with precautions, with at a pace that will match the local level. We don't see the governor talking to us peons that are county commissioners or township supervisors, because that's not how he governs. He's governed with a big one-step approach to shut everything down and hope something sticks. Well, he's destroyed our economy, and he's destroyed lives. So what we need to do is, I don't think there's even too much of a debate. Let's get the doors open, and let's do it very quickly. And let's be reasonable about it, because Americans have common sense. So as we do that, I just think we need to be courteous of other people who might be a little more terrified, but at the same time, not at the expense of our livelihoods.
Mr. Marsicano?
Well, I agree with Harry. We are starting to recover. But I believe what needs to be done here, the backbone of this country is small business. And I think it is inherent upon the federal government. Now, I'm not for entitlement programs or free money, but the small business people are going to have a problem going to the bank to get loans to fix their business, because most of their collateral, their everyday currency, is gone. That's what this pandemic has done. If a lot of these business people don't have cash reserves, when it comes time that the governor says, we can go green, I can start hauling stone, or there are people that are making payments on their equipment, some of these small business people, some of them won't be able to return. So an infusion needs to come from the federal government. I believe they could work it through the state, but a small businessman, man or woman, applies for a loan, and we know how banks work. When you don't have money, they don't give it to you. They'll give it to you when you have money. And so, and again, I am a small businessman. I think the government needs to get involved here in the recovery on a financial end. There has to be a criteria for it. There has to be a barometer, a measuring device to rule the fraud out of it. But people that have had a business in this country for so long, and they need assets, because they're not going to be able to go to a bank with no collateral and get that necessary infusion to start the business up, to drive this economy again back to where the president, and beyond where President Trump had it. So I believe the most important thing is helping these small business people get back on track And I'm against entitlement money, free money, and I think we're going to be good here. America has a way of demonstrating its heart under risky times, but the government needs to help the small businessman as we proceed.
Mr. Cammisa?
Thank you. I think I answered this question last time when we talked about our economy. It's simple. We need to reopen safely and securely. We need to get our small businesses back to work. We need to get our workers back to work. 2, we need a massive infrastructure program. 3, we need to invest in our natural resources here and become a net exporter of natural gas. We need to create family-sustaining jobs and increase revenue. I've yet to hear from any of my opponents a concrete plan for what we are going to do to bring us out of the recession that is coming. Our country is in a world of hurt. I grew up in the midst of the 2008 financial crisis. I've seen it. You all have seen it. What are we going to do to get us out of that? And no one here has a good answer. We just added $3 trillion to our debt. We're now $26 trillion in debt. What are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about the federal deficit? I've got plans. I've outlined them. I told you how we're going to get our economy back up and running. And again, I'm going to ask my opponents, what are you going to do about it? Thank you.
Mr. Daniels?
Where are we going to get all this money from? Where's it going to come from? Taxes? Small business owners are hurting. We need to open up now. We need to open it up. People want plans. Here's a plan. Open your business. Do it. The government or the governor's order was unconstitutional to begin with. If the entire state opens up, what are they going to do? They're going to yank everyone's license? They're going to punish everybody? Guys, there's something else, something out there. It's called there's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay? Incentives, where's it come from? Robbing Peter to pay Paul. That's where it's coming from. You think you're getting a break here, but you're paying more over here. There's one solution and one solution only. Open up. Go back to work. Get the economy going. The damage is done. It's done. I've raised a family. I've got kids. I put a roof over our head. I put food on the table. The damage is done. I've been there, folks. I've been there, and I've struggled in that bad economy in 2008. It was rough, but I made it through. And folks, we're Americans. We are the hardest working, grittiest sons of bitches that walk the planet. We can get through anything. This is nothing compared to what this country's been through before. And we're going to come out on top.
And Mr. Haas has a 30-second rebuttal with Mr. Cammisa's comment.
Yeah, again, to answer Mr. Cammisa's, this just illustrates that I'm the one with experience. I have helped out people. The Luzerne County Council, we have now delayed tax payments up until August 18th for this year. So that's saving people thousands of dollars, Mike, to have a specific answer. And also going forward, I would like to see that extend to the end of the year, but my colleagues didn't think that was appropriate. I also thought we should have a rebate extended as well for a 2% to give people that extra incentive that maybe have it to get it in, but also to help people with their bottom line. That's what government can do. If the government takes your job, they have a responsibility to protect that job and give you money. However, this most recent round, it rewards not working. It rewards governors who are keeping their states shut down. It's totally inappropriate. That's not a federal responsibility. That's squarely on the states.
And that same question would go to Mr. Bognet and Mr. Granville, who are not in attendance. The final question? Oh, okay. Mr. Cammisa would like a 15-second, since his name was mentioned. Mr. Cammisa?
Again, I'll ask you, Harry, what are you going to do in Congress to help our community? Thank you for your service as a Luzerne County councilman. I appreciate that. I'm one of your constituents. But again, what are we going to do as a nation? Thank you.
The last and final question, it's a one-word answer. It will be a yes or no to this question, and then we'll move right into your final 2-minute soliloquy on why you should be our candidate and be elected. So, unfortunately, one-word answer. So, do you think President Trump should pardon the Lion King?
Tiger King.
Tiger. Well, the Lion King would be Disney, but Tiger King. Okay. So, that one will go to Mr. Let's see, Haas, Mr. Marsicano. No comment. That's 2 words, Mike. Next, Mr. Cammisa. Pardoning the Tiger King. That's pop culture, guys. I'm not too much aware of it. Mr. Daniels?
Brother, I'm the one guy on the planet that hasn't even seen it. Okay? So I can't give you an...
You could use the word maybe. And,
I only saw 3 or 4 episodes. He hasn't even gone to jail yet. So.
yeah. But that is to lighten up the crowd. It shows that we're more involved with issues and getting America on track.
Government guy, I'm going to trust the local authorities and say no.
So there you have it. And Mr. Granville and Mr. Bognet are not here to answer that. You want to go?
I'm going to give them 4 minutes.
That's a long time. So Betsy has suggested, and we wanted to wrap this up in 90 minutes, so if you guys want 2 minutes or go a little bit longer, it's up to you, but I asked that Sam, start the clock. We'll give you 2 minutes if there's something that, you want 3? As long as the people on Facebook and America do care about the issues, let's go 3. That's a compromise between the forms, Betsy, and Teddy. So, okay. So does anyone recall how we started off? I think Mr. Cammisa started off, so let's do it in reverse. Let's have Mr. Marsicano. Mike, your closing argument for the people of Pennsylvania 8th Congressional to challenge Matt Cartwright.
Yeah. All the people watching this today, I would like to thank the hosts here that got this debate organized. It was very well, most needed, actually. We are in a critical time right now in the 8th Congressional District. And I said this earlier. The 4 candidates up here are the 4 candidates for the 8th Congressional District. You see, we showed up. And we have been showing up. Some things in life are worth fighting for. The 8th Congressional District is one of them. I met a lot of people up in Wayne County and in Pike County. I have a record in public office. I know about fake news. I know very well about fake news. I know what President Trump's going through. I believe that we need to send somebody to Washington that can defeat Cartwright. He is the real target here. We need to get Cartwright out of Congress. I believe I'm that person. I have defended my country, my town that I was the mayor of, when it was politically unpopular to do so. I stood with my police. I was tough on crime. We had an influx of people from New York and New Jersey and Hazleton in those days, and I stood up to it. And we enforced the law. I'm prepared to do that. I've defended the people that I swore to defend and serve. I will do the same in Congress. I have a background in law enforcement from the state police. I served 6 years in the military. I'm a small businessman. I've always resided here, unlike some of the candidates. And I want to be perfectly clear with the people tonight. We weren't fighting with anybody here, but we're passionate. We get accused as candidates in a political race, and it's tough for all 4 of us, whether you're single, married, or otherwise. It's a tough go today. In this communication renaissance, you're tattooed immediately. And I will defend the Marsicano and Palermo name with the last breath in my lungs. Whether it's with a flyer from a swamp creature who's not here. And you know, like, I'm a street fighter. You know, I like my opposition in front of me. But the guy said he was going to show up, Mr. Boganet. He didn't. So how in the name of God do you expect the people of the 8th Congressional to vote for this person? It's serious. I have a lot of my finances invested here. I didn't take money from anybody. I'm self-funded. I believe at the end of the day, the people will make the right decision in the 8th Congressional District. We need a fighter to take care of the agriculture and ancillary product problems up there in Wayne County, as well as Pike, the 25 miles of railhead that they need connected to the Northeast Corridor with that rail system going to New York. We need more jobs in manufacturing in Monroe, Lackawanna, and Luzerne County. And the way you get that is with your voice in Washington. And I'm the guy that's going to do it. So thank you very much. I love my country. My hat's off to the Memorial people. I'm doing a flyover tomorrow with my World War II airplane. So thank you guys for showing up. Thank you people for having it. And all you folks out there, June 2nd, get out and vote. But here are the 4 candidates for the 8th Congressional District. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marsicano. Mr. Haas?
Well, thanks again for hosting everybody that had a big part in this. This was really wonderful. And for the folks at home, I just want to thank you for tuning in and taking some time out of your busy, beautiful weekend here that we're starting up with Memorial Day. And it would be an honor to be your congressman. It really would. And like I said before, I'm really fortunate. I've got a wonderful, wonderful job. I got a wonderful wife. I love you, honey. Wish you could be here today. She's at home with the kids, of course. But I just think I'm the best person to beat Matt Cartwright. And I think I've communicated that well with all the voters out there today. I think I'm the one that shares your values. I think I'm the one that can get the job done, again, with decency and respect. It's just lacking in Washington. And you know what, it does trouble me when I talk to an awful lot of voters, and there's a segment that's like, well, I don't like how President Trump is kind of rough sometimes. And I explain to them, like, the left has created President Trump. They have created him. When Barack Obama said, oh, these people cling to their guns and religion, I was so offended by that. Like, I'm so offended of the left slapping regular American, hardworking people with these backhanded comments. It's so insulting. So I understand where President Trump is coming from. It would be an honor to go to Washington to be a vote against Nancy Pelosi becoming the next speaker, and to support President's common sense agenda that's been thwarted for 3.5 years here with these liberal things that they drum up to try to get them. People are rightfully skeptical with this COVID thing because, again, the politics does not match the science in so many levels, and I'm just so frustrated with it. But again, I'm going to take this and debate it reasonably and justly and kindly, like I have in my 8 years on county council. Even people I very much disagree with, I get along with them. I just disagree with them. I don't think they voted the way that is best for my people and that I'm representing. But nonetheless, still the folks out there, I've been here since I came back from college. Again, I'm a school teacher. I go into work just like all the other hardworking people here every day. And I've been serving here for 8 years. Again, just to recast what I said at the beginning, I've been elected 3 times. I've served in a Democrat majority county. Democrats vote for me because they know I'm fair, that I use common sense, that I'm just, that I call people back regardless of what persuasion they are, and that I'm a team player up to a point. When Governor Wolf shut down the Pennsylvania state budget about 5 years ago, you know, we were hamstringed for like 8 months. County governments, local governments, school districts were at a total loss. Nonprofits and social groups were really hurt by that. But that's what we see with the hardcore left. It's their way or the highway. I want to go to be a voice of the average American person that just wants to go back to work. And this is a good message for Governor. Well, Governor, just let us go back to work. That's all we're asking for. But I'm so sick of people that are just the average person being the enemy of the left. So it's time to bring common sense back to Washington. I want to trim down that debt. I don't want to spend $3 trillion to keep states shut down like these other governors do, and I want to do it with decency. Thank you, everybody, for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Mr. Daniels?
Has this been fun today? Guys, I'm honored to be up here with you. I really am. And who's ever seen Beetlejuice? Where he goes, it's showtime. I'll be honest with you, that's what I wanted today. It's what I really wanted. Because the 2 people who represent, who are the swamp, aren't here. I'm everything. I stand for everything that they don't. I'm against everything that they stand for. You know, this is an opportunity for the folks of the 8th District to get to meet and know the congressional candidates. One guy's probably running around drinking a wine cooler with fuchsia shorts and a sweater vest on somewhere. And the other one, since he referred to Trump supporters as Trump-tards, I kind of don't blame him for not being here. Folks, it's going to take a fighter. It's going to take somebody with a backbone. And I'm not going to stand here and say how I'm going to beat Matt Cartwright. How's Matt Cartwright going to beat me? That's my question. This guy is a political assassin. He's taken on big money, and he's crushed big money. What it's going to take to beat Matt Cartwright is a backbone, and for the men up here, something that hangs. Okay? That's what it's going to take. The establishment does not like me. The establishment hates me. As I said earlier, I refuse to get on my hands and knees and kiss the ring. Folks, we're getting ready to go to war. This is a war for the future of our country. And the working folks never had a voice. You know, my father was a brick and stone mason his whole life. And up until Trump, he told me, Teddy, you know, these politicians don't care about guys like us. My father stopped working, and a year and a half later, he died of cancer. And I hope now he's looking down, and he's saying, you know what, son? I'm glad you're taking this fight. I'm glad you're taking the fight for folks like us, because that's what we need in this country. Thank you for having us here today.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Cammisa?
Sorry.
Folks, thank you for the opportunity to join you virtually today. We have two goals. One, to get Donald J. Trump reelected President of the United States. Two, to put up a candidate who you're not only going to be proud of to send to Congress, but someone who will beat Matt Cartwright. Now more than ever, we don't need a politician. We need leaders. I'm not a politician. I don't come from a politically connected family. I'm not independently wealthy. Unlike my opponent, Mike Marsicano, who is a lifelong Democrat who supported Matt Cartwright, Hillary Clinton, and stood against my former boss, Lou Barletta, I did not switch parties because I saw an opportunity to run. Unlike Jim Bognett and Teddy Daniels, who hasn't lived in northeastern Pennsylvania in the last 15 years, I did not move here because I saw an opportunity to run for Congress. I'm running because I want the opportunity to serve my community, to help make northeastern Pennsylvania a better place to live. On June 2nd, I'm humbly asking for your support. Vote Mike Cammisa for Congress. Thank you, take care, stay safe, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, those were your closing arguments. Go ahead, Mike, quickly.
Yeah, thanks.
Mike wants to respond.
You know, I treated you with respect tonight. I'm very transparent in what I did as the mayor of the city of Hazleton, and I'm proud of it. And you know what? Donald Trump likes people like us. For you to come up here and stand, I know you're 24 years old, you're a young guy, okay? And I applaud you for taking on it, but don't come up here and accuse me of something that you don't know what the hell you're talking about. I told the people from day one I was a Democratic mayor. I was a conservative one. I did more as a Democratic mayor than a lot of Republicans did as Republicans. So Michael, let's be civil about it, you know? I treated everybody with respect tonight. I didn't care that two people didn't show up, Frank, and I applaud the position to defend myself. I'm not hiding anything. I have a card in my pocket. I've been contributing money to the RNC, I told you to put it on camera, for 10 years. What have you done? You've told the people what you want to do.
And that would be time. So, thank you. In closing, just so everyone knows, we did invite, thank you, Scranton Mayor Paige Cognetti and the Scranton City Council to be present at this event, along with Mr. Bognet and Mr. Granville, who chose not to show. There's about 20 hours worth of preparation that went into this event. So once again, I absolutely have to thank 40. So, you know, I love doing this stuff, and I love the country, and I love putting up a fight for this, just like Betsy Green of the Northeast Pennsylvania Women and Men for Trump, like Debbie Barbos, president of the Republican Women of Luzerne County, Bob Bolus, Towers and Truckers for Trump 2020, and also letting us use this facility. Judy Depp Aarons, who her question wasn't at vice president, but she wasn't asked about the gas drillers in Wayne County that can't drill and can't frack because of St. Andrew Cuomo the Pious, the New York governor, that has Pennsylvania held hostage. So we could put this on for another 2.5 hours, but we all know the issues. We must vote June 2nd. Also appreciative of ECTV, Fox 56, PCN, Sam Barbos, Mr. Novakuski, and Mr. Henry, who, as I stated before, does not have a relationship to Sue Henry, the former extraordinary talk show host. So, ladies and gentlemen, signing off from Scranton, Pennsylvania, my name is Frank Scavo, Patriot, 3%er, Second Amendment, and reminding you to vote. Listen, if you don't like the lockdown, if you don't like what's going on in Pennsylvania or the country, I urge you to vote Republican. So, once again, thank you. This is where the revolutions occur, at the ballot box. Signing off. Good night, and God bless America.
Thank you.
Did I